What is deontological ethics, and will an increase in moral relativism bring an end to it in the near future? Deontological ethics is based on moral duty. Deontological ethics is a theory of morality based on a non-consequentialist view of people and moral decision-making. Deontology comes from the Greek word for duty. Thus, deontological ethics maintains that actions are not justified by their consequences. Rather, factors other than good outcomes determine the rightness of actions. Unlike utilitarianism, where the ends justify the means, deontologicalism argues that it is the means that are important. Deontological ethics is grounded in the categorical imperative, which was first developed by German philosopher Immanuel Kant in his groundwork for the metaphysics of morals, 1785. The categorical imperative simply declares, act as if the maxim of thy action were to become by thy will a universal law of nature. Are you willing to permit everyone to adopt the action? If yes, your action is moral. If no, your action is immoral. In a nutshell, our internal responses are more revealing than our outward professions when we flip the moral actions back on ourselves. Although the categorical imperative is very similar to the golden rule of Christianity, Judaism, and other religions, do unto others as you would have them do unto you, deontologism generally rejects any moral theory grounded in God or a higher absolute truth. At its core, deontological ethics is a naturalistic, duty-based theory of objective cultural morality that somehow transcends and connects the subjective realities of each individual in the culture. Wait, does that really work? Dr. Joel Marks is one of the latest scholars of deontological ethics to publicly declare that there's no difference between right and wrong. In fact, as an ethicist scholar at the Interdisciplinary Center for Bioethics at Yale University, Professor Marks now honestly believes, quote, the religious fundamentalists are correct. Without God, there is no morality. But they are incorrect. I still believe about there being a God, hence, I believe there is no morality, quote. As a naturalist atheist, Marx used to hold to the deontological view of morality. Allegedly, this view does not require God, a transcendent standard, to distinguish between right and wrong. However, Marx now maintains that the theory of deontological ethics is just as unreasonable as believing in the divine. Through a series of articles in Philosophy Now, Dr. Marx fully developed the, quote, amoral manifesto, quote. In the process, he had an anti-epiphany in which he rejected deontology and realized that morality was nothing more than a fuzzy subjective feeling. Quote, I retain my strong preference for honest dialectical dealings in a context of mutual respect. It's just that I am no longer giving premises to moral arguments. Rather, I am offering considerations to help us figure out what to do. I am not attempting to justify anything. I am trying to motivate informed and reflective choices. But this wouldn't be because a God, a supernatural law, or even my conscience told me that I must. I ought. I have an obligation. Instead, I will be moved by my head and my heart. Morality has nothing to do with it. Quote. Remember, this is a top ethical scholar in the area of bioethics. Dr. Mark's coming out party reminds me of another shindig shortly after President Obama's inauguration. In early March 2009, with a cloud of witnesses in the East Room of the White House, quote, more happy scientists than I've ever seen, quote, said Alan Leshner, CEO of the American Association for the Advancement of Science, President Obama abolished a Bush-era restraint on stem cell research and declared the following, quote, our government has forced what I believe is a false choice between sound science and moral values. It is about ensuring that scientific data is never distorted or concealed to serve a political agenda. and that we make scientific decisions based on facts, not ideology. Quote, here's a thought. As more and more ethicists in the medical establishment declare there's no such thing as ethics, on what basis is our medical community or culture going to make bioethical decisions in areas such as abortion, euthanasia, cloning, stem cell research, organ harvesting, end-of-life decisions, etc.? If the so-called experts are now rejecting deontological ethics or duty-based morality in favor of sheer moral relativism, whose, quote, fuzzy subjective feeling, quote, is going to be the moral standard at the next meeting of the Interdisciplinary Center for Bioethics? Recently, with what we've seen with the decisions made regarding a particular worldwide emergency in late 2019 that affected the world negatively, along with the advertised solution, which has also had very negative effects, clearly show the bad results of moral relativism in the medical community. In the future, a complete lack of ethics will enable us to see more devastating effects of moral relativism as practiced in the medical community and beyond. In our general culture, it appears that deontological ethics have been replaced by a false concept of love. Love wins seems to be the new standard for moral definitions, decisions, and judgment. This is fake love, not God's love. The peddlers of faux love, or fake love, are dangerous charlatans out to destroy the fabric of traditional Christianity and ethics. The moral life is not about endlessly repeating mantras such as, quote, love is love, quote, or, quote, I love everyone, quote, and, quote, we must spread love and kindness, quote. Indeed, biblical love, happiness, and compassion are needed for a moral culture, but to be truly loving, kind, and compassionate often requires citizens to take difficult positions against false ideas pushed in the name of faux love. Real people are being harmed by this new standard of morality. Don't be fooled. God's standards of justice, virtue, and truth supersede the latest attempts at evangelizing moral relativism in the name of love.